November 29, 1943, 11:32 hours local time. Over northern Germany, the sky is hard and colorless, a pale winter blue stretched thin by altitude. At 24,000 feet, the air is brittle. Sound behaves differently here. Engines do not roar so much as they grind, a constant mechanical vibration that travels through aluminum frames and into bone. There is no warmth, there is no comfort. There is only motion, noise, and the slow arithmetic of fuel, distance, and time. I am looking at the tail end of a Boeing B-17, flying fortress as it holds position in a combat box moving east toward Bremen. The aircraft carries the name Rikki-Tikki-Tavi, painted in worn white letters beneath the cockpit windows. She is one of several hundred heavy bombers dispatched by the 8th Air Force that morning. Their task is explicit and limited: destroy industrial capacity, shipyards, aircraft components, anything that sustains the German war economy along the Weser River. The bomber formation is already under strain. German radar stations along the coast detected the raid while it was still crossing the North Sea. Fighter units were scrambled early. Flak batteries were manned well before the bombers reached the German mainland. Losses have already occurred. I note at least half a dozen empty positions in the sky where aircraft should be at the very rear of Rikki-Tikki-Tavi, isolated by more than 40 feet of fuselage and bulkheads. Staff Sergeant Eugene Moran kneels at his guns. He is 19 years old. His seat is narrow, little more than a metal frame bolted to the tail cone. There is no room to stretch, no space to stand. The only view available to him is aft, through armored glass that is already frosted at the edges. Outside, contrails crisscross the sky. Inside, the temperature hovers well below freezing despite electrically heated clothing. His oxygen mask hisses softly with every breath. The tail gunner's position is both simple and terminal. It covers the most vulnerable approach to the aircraft. German fighter doctrine has long emphasized attacks from directly astern, exploiting the narrow defensive arc at 6 o'clock. The tail gunner exists to deny that approach. He does not maneuver. He waits. Moran has 2.50 caliber Browning machine guns mounted on a flexible cradle. Each weighs more than 80 pounds. Each can fire roughly 800 rounds per minute. Ammunition feeds from metal boxes bolted into the compartment walls. Empty shell casings collect around his knees. He watches the sky. The bomber stream approaches Bremen just after noon. Anti-aircraft fire begins almost immediately. Black flak bursts bloom at precise altitudes, calculated by ground crews using optical predictors and radar inputs. The bombers cannot evade. They must fly straight and level for the bomb run. Any deviation compromises the entire formation. I observe one aircraft ahead take a direct hit. The explosion is not dramatic. There is no fireball. The fuselage simply folds. The aircraft separates into sections and falls away silently, as if the sky itself has rejected it. Rikki-Tikki-Tavi presses on. Bombs are released. 4,000 pounds of high explosive drop cleanly from the bay. The aircraft shudders as weight leaves the airframe. The target disappears beneath cloud and smoke. The formation turns west. This is the most dangerous phase of the mission. Bombers are low on fuel. Engines are strained. Defensive formations loosen as aircraft with minor damage struggle to keep station. German fighters, conserving fuel earlier, now commit in force at 12:17 hours. Flak strikes Rikki-Tikki-Tavi's number 2 engine. The propeller windmills. Oil pressure collapses. The aircraft loses speed. In bomber operations, speed is life. A damaged aircraft that cannot hold formation becomes isolated. Isolation invites attack. Moran sees the fighters before anyone else does. They approach from below and behind, climbing into firing position. Messerschmitt Bf-191s and Focke-Wulf FW-190s dark against the pale sky. They are experienced pilots, many with years of combat behind them. They know exactly where to aim. The first pass comes from 6 o'clock. Moran presses his shoulders against the steel backplate and squeezes the triggers. The guns hammer. Tracers arc outward, red lines vanishing into distance. The fighter breaks away at the last moment, rolling inverted. There is no pause. The Germans attack in pairs. One aircraft draws fire. The second lines up the bomber's engines or cockpit. This is practiced, efficient, unemotional work. Moran swings the guns from target to target. The tail compartment fills with smoke and the metallic smell of burned powder. His gloves stiffen as sweat freezes. He fires in short bursts, just as he was trained. Overheating barrels mean useless guns. Rounds strike the aircraft. The sound is unmistakable. Heavy cannon shells tearing through aluminum skin. Somewhere forward, a gun falls silent. Then, another. The intercom crackles with partial voices and static. A fighter flashes across his sights. Moran fires. The aircraft's wing disintegrates under impact. The German machine spins away. Trailing smoke, it is his first confirmed kill. There is no time to register it. Another burst of cannon. Fire slams into the tail section. Moran feels the impact in his arms. Pain is immediate, sharp, and wet. Blood spreads across the sleeves of his heated suit. He flexes his fingers. They still respond. He keeps firing. The aircraft begins to vibrate, not turbulence. Structural vibration. Control cables snap and whip through the compartment. The vertical stabilizer above him shudders under repeated hits. Moran looks down at his parachute. The canvas pack strapped to his chest is torn open. Silk hangs in shreds. There are holes large enough to put a hand through. The realization arrives quietly. If the aircraft breaks apart, there is no escape. German fighters continue their passes. The bomber loses altitude, remaining engines strain to maintain lift. Forward in the aircraft, the cockpit is already silent. The pilots are dead. The flight engineer is dead. The radio operator is dead. The ball turret beneath the aircraft hangs motionless. Only 2 men remain alive. Moran in the tail, navigator Jesse Orison in the nose. 40 feet of shattered fuselage separates them. At 12:23 hours, another cannon shell strikes something critical. The vibration intensifies into a violent oscillation. The sound that follows is not explosive. It is structural. Aluminum tearing under stress. A high, shrieking sound that carries through bone. The fuselage fails just forward of the tail. Moran watches the rest of the aircraft separate and fall away. Wings, engines, the cockpit. 8 men. All of it drops out of sight in seconds. The tail section, weighing several tons, remains intact. It is falling. At first it tumbles, end over end. Moran is thrown against the compartment walls. His injured arms scream. Blood sprays across the interior. Wind howls through the open break, where the rest of the aircraft had been at this altitude. A human body in freefall reaches terminal velocity quickly, roughly 120 miles per hour. A heavy structure falls faster. Moran has perhaps 90 seconds to live. German fighters circle the falling wreckage. Some approach cautiously, perhaps to confirm the kill, perhaps out of curiosity. Moran reaches for his guns. The tail section spins violently. G-forces press him into his seat, then fling him upward. Aiming is almost impossible. He fires anyway. Tracers spray across the sky in uncontrolled arcs. The effect is immediate. German fighters scatter. One aircraft takes hits along the fuselage and dives away trailing smoke. Others pull back sharply, unwilling to close on a man who is still shooting while falling out of the sky. The tail sections. Aerodynamics begin to matter. The vertical and horizontal stabilizers act as crude lifting surfaces. Airflow creates drag. The violent spin slows. The descent becomes something closer to a glide. Though still uncontrolled, Moran watches the ground. Approach through gaps in the torn fuselage, fields, forests, roads, the patchwork of northern Germany rising rapidly. He braces himself against the steel chest plate, wraps his shattered arms around the ammunition boxes. There is nothing else to hold. The tail section strikes the top of a pine tree. Branches snap. The stabilizer catches tears away. The wreckage cartwheels through the forest canopy, shedding aluminum with each impact. Moran's head strikes the frame. Light explodes behind his eyes. Ribs crack. His arms bend at unnatural angles. The wreckage hits the frozen ground. Silence. Moran is alive. Barely, both. Forearms are shattered. Bone protrudes through skin. His ribs are broken. A piece of his skull is missing, exposing brain tissue to freezing air. He cannot move his arms. His breathing is shallow and painful. The crash site lies in a forest roughly 15 miles south of Bremen, enemy territory. He crawls from the wreckage, dragging himself across frozen ground. Hypothermia begins its work almost immediately. He collapses. German soldiers arrive within the hour. They surround the wreckage cautiously. They stare at the American airman lying in the snow, his injuries unmistakably fatal by any ordinary standard. They search him, roughly, dog tags, rank insignia, the ruined parachute. They leave him where he lies while they inspect the tail section. An officer arrives. He looks at Moran and shakes his head. Orders are orders. Wounded airmen are to be captured if possible. They load Moran onto a wooden cart. No stretcher, no blankets. No medical care. The journey is agony. Every bump sends pain through shattered bones. Blood freezes on his skin. Consciousness comes and goes. He is delivered to a German military facility. Concrete floor. Cold walls. No doctor arrives. Medical supplies are scarce. Enemy airmen are not a priority. For 2 days, Moran lies untreated. Infection sets in. Gangrene threatens both arms. Fever rises. Brain swelling becomes a serious risk. On the 3rd day, he is transported again, this time to a prisoner hospital. The building is overcrowded, undersupplied. Triage is ruthless. 2 Serbian doctors examine him. Captured on the Eastern Front, pressed into service. They understand what the Germans already assume. Minimal anesthesia. Improvised instruments. They clean infected tissue. Set bones with wire and pins. Cover exposed brain tissue with what remains. Attach a crude metal plate to his skull. Survival now depends on his body. The fever peaks at 104 degrees. Delirium follows. He speaks to people who are no longer alive. The doctors remain with him. They have nothing else to offer. On the 3rd morning, the fever breaks. Moran opens his eyes. He lives. Recovery is slow. Pain constant. His arms will never fully recover. The metal plate in his skull causes persistent headaches, but he is alive. Word spreads through the hospital. The man who fell from the sky and lived. Guards come to see him. Other prisoners ask to hear the story. After 6 weeks, he is transferred to Stalag Luftwaffe in Pomerania. Barbed wire. Guard towers. Wooden barracks. Thousands of Allied airmen. Captivity lasts 17 months. Transfers follow. Railcars, camps, hunger, disease. In late 1944, Moran is loaded onto a freight ship crossing the Baltic. Hundreds of prisoners crammed into a dark hold. No ventilation, no sanitation. The crossing lasts for days. Men die where they stand. In February 1945, as Soviet forces approach, prisoners are forced onto a march west. Winter temperatures drop below 0. Food is almost non-existent. Guards shoot those who fall behind. The march lasts 86 days. Moran walks. On April 26th, American forces intercept the column near the Elbe River. German guards surrender. Liberation arrives quietly. Almost anticlimactic Allied. Moran weighs 93 pounds. Military records document the facts without embellishment. Shot down over Bremen. Fell from altitude without a parachute. Survived, captured, endured captivity, and forced march. Returned home, he receives 2 Purple Hearts, an Air Medal, an honorable discharge. He rarely speaks of the war. He farms, marries, raises children, lives with pain and memory. In 2007, his state recognizes him formally. A street is named in his honor. His story is finally recorded in full. I note, as a historian, that only 3 Allied airmen are known to have survived falls of comparable distance without parachutes during the war. In each case, wreckage altered physics just enough. Statistics do not explain will. On November 29, 1943, a B-17 was destroyed over Germany. One part of it kept fighting, and one man refused, quietly to die. If you loved this story and want more history that shocks, inspires, and motivates, subscribe to Rising Warfare, like this video, and explore the incredible tales we uncover. More amazing content is coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.